feel like I really could call myself the accidental therapist, because it wasn't like I woke up one day and said, I want to be a therapist. You don't heal illness, you heal a person. You don't heal disease, you heal a whole person's life. When I do a root cause with someone, I'm not just looking at one particular symptom, I'm looking at their whole life to see the whole string of pearls that goes together that makes sense of why they're ill.
Hi, Mai, from My Heart Place to Your Heart Place, Kim Knight to the Heart Place Hospital podcast.
Greetings.
In today's episode, I'm thrilled to introduce you, Kim, a true pioneer and way shower in a revolutionary new era of health and well-being. So you've dedicated over 25 years to healing yourself from illnesses deemed incurable or only treatable with medications. So conditions like chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, clinical depression, chronic back pain, and asthma. And this journey has led you to explore 250 different healing modalities, eventually mastering over 20 cutting-edge mind-body techniques. So your unique approach, grounded in root cause analysis and lifestyle medicine, is transformative. And since 2006, you've helped hundreds of people uncover the real causes of their complex health issues, often deemed unsolvable by mainstream medicine. Your methodology identifies the core of the problem in just 3 hours, and you offer pathways to medication-free and supplement-free healing. So today in our conversation, we're hoping to dive into the need for the revolutionary new paradigm in healthcare, amen, a woman, and the hidden history of medicine, and the power of trusting our body's innate ability to heal. So for those who are ready to step into the future of self-reliant health, Kim Knight's work offers a profound shift in how we understand and approach healing. So welcome.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, I just wonder if you can go into a little bit about how this came about after your own journey, which is quite often the stories that we share, the pain to purpose stories. People have been to their own school of hard knocks. So I wonder if you could share yours with us.
Sure. So I grew up in the UK, and in my family, all that I ever knew, all that we ever knew, if you had a health problem, was that you go to a doctor, and the solutions would be medication or surgery primarily. And the first thing that happened to me that wasn't able to be helped with that was I hurt my back quite badly in my mid-20s. And the doctor just said, well, we can't really see that there's anything wrong. X-rays are not really showing anything, and we can't help you. But I was clearly injured because I couldn't even bend over and put my socks on. So that led me to my very first natural health practitioner. So this is back in the 80s. Yeah, 80s. Which was an osteopath. Mm-hmm. And I had an amazing, recovery, or actually it sort of went ongoing, but he was able to help me incredibly, and I was able to sort of get back on my feet, so to speak. And then in my when I was 28, I was diagnosed with clinical depression, and I'd never heard of the word depression. And when I was diagnosed with it, I was like, well, what's that? Because I still didn't recognize that I was depressed. And that led me to having what is clinically called a nervous breakdown, but which many years later I pieced together was actually a massive shift of consciousness. Mm-hmm. And it was literally my consciousness breaking down to build a new consciousness. And that was what I had to go through. But it took several years to piece that together. At the time, I just knew that I was going through this horrendous experience of going deeper and deeper into a pit of dark hell and not knowing how to get out of it. But one thing that I did know when I was in the hospital was that I didn't want medication. They gave me antidepressants for one day, and I felt worse. I could really feel the effect it was having on me. And I thought, no, I don't want that. And so I didn't continue. And by the way, I'm not saying to people, don't take antidepressants, because there's a place for everything. But for me, it just wasn't the right thing. So I came out of that experience and was rebuilding myself, so to speak. And I thought getting on with my life, but I still hadn't dealt with the root causes of what had created that in the first place. And one of the things I learned later was that depression is the depressing of emotions. And so you need to work out, well, what are the emotions that you're depressing, and what is that all about? And that will usually go back to unresolved issues and traumas from childhood. So I then came to New Zealand and thought I was getting on with my life, and then was diagnosed. I was getting tighter and tighter and tighter over a period of months. And it didn't matter what I did, if I had time off, if I had went to bed early, it didn't matter what I did. I just couldn't shift this tiredness. And then I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. And little did I know that that would take me on a 10-year journey to resolve it. I was barely able to work at all. For 10 years, I had to leave my job. I ended up selling my house, and I found myself after 4 years or 5 years of being housebound, sometimes bedbound, lying in bed one day going, what would happen if this got worse and worse and I only had a few months to live? It got to that point. And the thought that popped into my mind in that moment was, well, I would like to do this trip around the world that I've been dreaming of doing for years. And I had been collecting brochures of places I wanted to go around the world. And they had filled, because back then we did paper, right? We don't do it now. But back then, I'm not kidding you, it filled a 2-drawer filing cabinet. Those of all the places I wanted to go in the world. And so I was lying there in bed and said to myself, what would I do if I only had 6 months to live? And the thought that immediately came was, I want to do that trip around the world before I get to the stage where maybe I can't even do that. I mean, I could barely literally get to the post box at the end of my driveway. But, chronic fatigue can come and go. One day you'll be feeling not so bad and the next day you're in bed. So bizarrely, in that moment, I decided I was going to do this trip. And in order to do that, I had to sell my house, which I later regretted, given the rising cost of houses. But I sold my house, and it sold in 2 weeks, and I took that as a sign that it was meant to be. And even though I wasn't well, I planned this trip around the world, and I set off, and I was still searching for answers. That was really what was going on. And I tried all sorts of weird and wonderful therapies, including, having Mexican shamans crack eggs on my head, and Mexican sweat lodges, and all sorts of things. And still, I wasn't finding the answers. And then I found myself in Costa Rica, and I crashed again for a month. I had to find this really cheap apartment because I literally could hardly walk. And so I was there for a month. And while I was there, I went to this yoga class, and this lady had just arrived to teach from America. And she started talking about this therapy called Chinetsang, which is abdominal massage. And something piqued my interest. And I was on my way back to America. So I decided that I wanted to find out more. And I got myself to San Francisco. And then again, I was bedbound, lying in bed the day that I was meant to go to this clinic just to get some brochures. They couldn't give me a session because they were booked, but just to get some brochures. And I was lying in bed going, please, God, if you want me to get to this clinic, somehow get me there. And I can't remember what happened, but I did get there. I had to take a taxi. I remember it cost me $100, because I just couldn't take the train. And when I walked in the door, the director of the clinic, Gilles Marin, was there. And for some reason, he didn't have a client. And he said, so why are you here? And I just burst into tears, because by then it had been 5 years of searching. And I just said, I've got chronic fatigue. And anyway, he said, let's give you a little treatment. And he got me on the table. And I had the most profound treatment where it was just time for everything to be let go. And I howled for an hour nonstop as he worked on me. And he said to me, the good news is you're strong. The bad news is you use all that strength to hold everything in. He said, chronic fatigue is not a lack of energy, it's blocked energy, and specifically it's blocked emotional energy. Now, since then, I've also found that, with burnout and other fatigues, that it is also a lack of physical energy as well. But that was a turning point, and I was able to leave that clinic walking and take the train home. I was profoundly changed. That was my turning point. And so then I started to train with him, and it was all very much about learning how to process emotions. And that became a very, very big part of my focus over the next few years through various different modalities, was learning how to identify and clear emotional energy and trauma from the body. And then that took another 5 years, and I also trained in various things such as massage. I did a massage course, at Well Park College, which is no more. And I wasn't doing it to be a therapist. I was doing it because I was trying to heal myself. And by 2006, so we're now, 11 years into the whole journey, I could say that I was 95% better. And it was like, well, what am I going to do with myself now? And then people started asking me for sessions. So, and I said no initially. I said, no, I'm not interested in being a therapist. But this one lady was very, very persistent and kept ringing me, because back then we used the phone as well, rather, than the internet so much. And in the end, I thought, oh, okay, I'll just give it a go. And then because I'd been through chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, then that's what I tended to specialize in and help people with. But I feel like I really could call myself the accidental therapist, because it wasn't like I woke up one day and said, I want to be a therapist.
I can totally resonate with that. Me too. Yeah, it was. I call myself the accidental advocate. I'm like, did I say yes to this?
Yes.
Amazing. Really. Yeah, and so part of this conversation, we really want to dive into the need for this revolutionary new paradigm in healthcare. And I mean, I know for me, certainly, I've been harping on about it since what I call my Mack truck moment nearly 9 years ago. Yeah, we just simply can't have a simple and sustainable healthcare system with the band-aiding that we continue to do. So I just wonder if you could share a little bit more about, or give us a little bit of what you think that's going to look like, or what that is starting to look like with so many grassroots opportunities coming through.
Yeah, well, I've been, like you, an advocate for a long time that we need a different system. And back in about 2016, I started speaking at medical conferences, but what I call more conventional mainstream medical conferences, as well as alternative conferences. But what I found at the mainstream conferences was, I mean, the reason I was going there was to say, listen, there are some other solutions here. You can have medication-free solutions that really work. Here's the proof. Here's the evidence. And then, even though I might have like a nurse, occasionally sidling up to me and going, I really liked what you said, but I can't show, anybody else that I agree with you. I was finding that nobody was really interested. And in particular, I presented at a couple of digital health conferences, which were really talking about what is happening now, way before most people were hearing about it in the public. And I just couldn't understand why they weren't, interested in hearing this information, because one of the things they kept on harping on about was that, for example, 30% plus of the healthcare budget in New Zealand and other countries, I think it's more in the States, is put towards health, right? A massive amount of their budget is put towards health. And it's like, well, listen, all you need to do is re-educate, health professionals, re-educate the public. They can start taking more self-responsibility, because that's actually what has to happen for true healing to occur. And everybody wins, right? But actually there's some people that don't win. It's Big Pharma who doesn't win. So, I spoke at the World Council for Health First Better Way conference in 2022 and on some of their general assemblies, and really tried to bring this to the fore as well to the doctors that had left the system. So they're wanting to bring a new system into play, and they've left the old system, but they're still thinking that the new system is going to be created by doctors. And to me, this is a huge error, huge. But there's so much ego caught up in being a doctor. And there's also, one can't blame, either the public or the doctors in many ways, because as I've discovered shockingly and fascinatingly in the last 4 years through doing this research into the hidden history of medicine, is that the way that the medical system was initially set up, it was deliberately done to push aside natural health practitioners. And this happened 150 years ago, and most people have no idea. I didn't really have any idea of the scope of it until I started really digging into it. But it all started in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And this is why, for years it was like, I just feel as a natural health practitioner that doctors don't want to listen to me. They think that we're woo-woo. They think that we're irrelevant, that we're not, we don't have enough authority, enough training, enough knowledge. And having gone through and personally tried and tested 250 different natural/alternative healing modalities, I can absolutely say that there are many modalities that are just as powerful, even more powerful, we could say, than taking a medication or maybe having to have a surgery. Now, obviously, sometimes we need those things. There is absolutely no doubt. I do that if I need to. But we've just been so misinformed into what is disease, what is health, what are the solutions for health. And I really do feel that, the way that the health system is breaking down at the moment, because it absolutely is, it is crumbling. The wait that people have now when they go to a hospital, like the ER department, to see somebody, it's shocking. I just saw a post by Linda Wharton from the Health Forum New Zealand just 2 days ago, and she often puts out questions like, how long did you have to wait to see a doctor when you went to the hospital recently? And people are sharing all these horrendous stories of, there was a guy lying on the floor for 12 hours with a shotgun wound. And I mean, it's like, what on earth is happening? Well, it is terrible, and I feel so sorry for anybody who has to be in that situation. But things have to break down in order to be built again, just like my mind was broken down all those years ago, so that it could be built again. The old building has to be demolished so that a nice new shiny building can be built. So I think we're in the process of that breaking down, so that what we're building behind the scenes here, and lots of different groups have been doing for years. I mean, some of these natural health modalities, these really cutting edge ones, have been going for 10, 20, 30 years, but a lot of people in the mainstream system have no idea. They've never heard of them. So it has been building. There is a new foundation building. And as the old building system crumbles more, then we'll be able to start building this nice new shiny building. But it's going to take a bit of work.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love this. This is such a great conversation. It's totally Heart Place Hospital, exactly what you're saying, and really giving those that have come into conventional medicine to really open their eyes up to cutting edge modalities. And the beautiful thing is that we now have more and more clinicians actually advocating for them, if not trained in them and delivering them. So our service providers, most of our service providers are conventionally trained medicine people with these cutting edge modalities. So they are actually able to support people with that whole person in mind, which is really exciting. And you're right, just like yours and my stories and so many others that I've shared on this podcast, we've had to have our pain stories so that we can find purpose, which is kind of how we're designed, right? We're designed to to have the mad, bad, sad, and glad, so that we can evolve or take a different route, like you did with selling your house and finding yourself in San Francisco, and then the breadcrumbs snowballed for you, and same with my breadcrumbs, they all snowballed, and that's why we're so passionate about getting to those who are in the front line of our most vulnerable citizens, because they've been an example of this. Hey, me too. Like, I've had curveballs, and these are the silver linings that came out of the lead. So I'd love us also just to talk about the power of trusting our body's innate ability to heal. And I know for me, once you pop, you can't stop. Once you know how to feel and reveal and deal and heal, there's no going back. So yeah, I just wonder if you could share a little bit more about that from your perspective.
Absolutely. So I feel that through everything that I've gone through, and basically discovering that in order to heal what I needed to heal, which was the list of conditions and more that you listed out at the start there, was that I was the one that had to do the work. And I think one of the problems with the mainstream system is that it's very fear-based. And obviously we know it's just treating the end result, not the cause. And people are not taught that they can trust their body to heal, and that their body is actually a self-healing mechanism. We are not told that. We're not taught that, and we're not told how to implement that. It's like we haven't been given the instruction manual for our body or body-mind, because obviously they're intimately connected. So through my own personal multiple stories I could tell of all the different things that I've healed into, just through doing the work myself, rather than having any external intervention, plus through working and seeing hundreds of clients having similar results, plus reading a lot about it, and training in it.
Mm-hmm.
I am absolutely convinced. I know that this is possible. It's not a belief, it's a knowing. And in particular, talking about the topic of trust, since 2009, I've been training in a particular method of Qigong called Ren Shui Wangong Qigong. And I started training in Qigong in 2000, which was when I met my first teacher. He was a Qigong teacher, that man, the first practitioner I went to. And he became my first teacher. And then I came across a new teacher of a new system in 2009. And one of the things that we learn, it's a very core part of our training, is to cultivate what they call the 5 essential qualities of the heart. So the 5 essential qualities of the heart are trust, openness, love, gratitude, and deep respect. Mm-hmm. And trust is, they say, the key and the doorway to opening the heart. And so we have these particular meditations that we do to help cultivate and grow, just like you have to cultivate and grow a flower. We have to cultivate and grow this element, this essential quality of trust, because if we don't consciously do it, it withers and dies, and then it gets replaced with the doubt, the suspicion, the anxiety. So in order to take those weeds out, we have to put more focus on growing the flowers. And so that is massively helpful as well, because it helps us to trust ourselves, to trust others, to trust life in general. And it's very, very deep work. And it's all centered around the fact that the heart has consciousness. It's not just our mind that has consciousness, our heart has consciousness. And we have to actively grow our heart consciousness to develop these virtues so that they sort of, the weeds can't grow anymore.
How else do you share this? Like, how do you actually share this with people? How do people find you, and how do you share these modalities with people?
Well, I do have websites, although they're so what's the word, so in need of updating at the moment. I never seem to have time to get to them. So I'm always a bit embarrassed about pointing to people to my websites. And to be honest, I had a bit of a break in the last year from working one-on-one with people, because I just needed to take time out for myself for various reasons. And I'm coming through quite a transitional time, having gone through quite a deep psycho-spiritual experience of menopause in the last couple of years, and feeling that my work is changing. I haven't quite worked out where it's going, but part of it is, being taken up at the moment with this roadshow that's coming up, which is more where I'm wanting to put my focus, which is on helping develop this new healthcare system for the future. I feel like I've done the hard yards, if you like, in terms of learning what that takes, and now I want to be able to offer my wisdom, if you like, my knowledge, in being one of the contributors to building this new healthcare system. But my main website is artofhealth.co.nz. And my Qigong website is daohealthqigong.com. And I also have an emotional alchemy website, which is all tools for learning how to self-process and self-manage and master one's emotional beingness. And that's emotionalalchemyacademy.com. So those are my main health websites.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I'm the same with our website. It just evolves so quickly. It's hard to keep up. And I think you're right. Same with me. Had an intense psycho-spiritual transformation with menopause, which, we hear so much about the physical expressions, but I think there's a big bunch of us with who coming through who's incredibly heart-centered, who are seeing, literally seeing that there is another way. But beautiful thing is that, platforms like this and other conversations, that we're actually collaborating and not trying to do what we did in the old ways as one person being in charge. So it's more of a bringing in that partnership and those healing roundtables, so that we're all whatever our zone of genius is, then we bring that through, and meet people where they're at as well, because we're all doing such massive transformations ourselves from generations of not being so conscious of the conscious. So yeah, it's a big time, big place, big things, big shifts. So yeah, I just wonder if you could share with to end just what's coming up in your heart place right now, and share that with our listeners.
Yes, well, it's sort of what I just mentioned. The other two things that I could mention that are coming up for me are, one, the root cause analysis protocol that I've been using for the past many years. It's really been developing since 2006, and you know what it's like. Things they develop and then they change and they change and they change and they evolve. And yeah, it's something that I feel is so profoundly useful for helping people understand the root cause of their problems in a really fundamental way. And it's built on the premise, which I learned from my first teacher that I mentioned before, that you don't heal illness, you heal a person. You don't heal disease, you heal a whole person's life. So when I do a root cause with someone, I'm not just looking at one particular symptom, I'm looking at their whole life to see the whole string of pearls that goes together that makes sense of why they're ill. And in every single person that I've worked with, and I'm still waiting to meet somebody that this doesn't apply to, but it hasn't happened so far, is that all the problems that they're experiencing now were set up in the first 7 years of their life. That's where it all happens. So I've developed this signature, what I call signature root cause analysis protocol, which I would like at some point. Been thinking of it for about 3 years, but it just hasn't been the right time. Maybe next year. I'd like to teach some health practitioners and some doctors even in this protocol. And the other thing that is coming up more immediately, which has been taking all my mental bandwidth, power, and time for the last month, and will be for the next month, is this Safe and Effective Roadshow, which is traveling around New Zealand. Helping people to really understand the truth about what has been going on with the vaccine. And because the reason being that so many everyday New Zealanders are experiencing really strange and unexpected symptoms, and they don't know why. And then they go to the doctor, and the doctor doesn't understand why either. But so much evidence is coming to the fore now. And even just this week with the Pfizer Papers book released by Naomi Wolf, that unfortunately this new novel mRNA technology is causing a swathe of symptoms. And so people really need to be helped. So that's where my focus is for the rest of this year.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on Heart Place Hospital podcast, and we look forward to sharing this with others and watching the evolution of the new age health and education system that we can help co-create.
Yes, let's hope that we see it in our lifetime.
Yeah, me too. I hope so too. Yeah.